How's it going? Back in the day, whenever I was running around, and I can't remember if I was still in high school or just out of high school, can't remember exactly when. Now, parts of this story is going to be both in and out. But I would go run around, and if I'd pop in over to Chris's house, where he's still living, his mom and dad. And if he wasn't around, or if nobody was around, I would leave a calling card that I had been there, and they always knew it was me. And but if I'd show up and nobody was around, I would leave an empty beer bottle or empty beer can sitting on the garage door. That way, they knew I had been there. Now, Chris's mom was for lack of a better term, my second mom. I probably spent just as much time at their house growing up as I did my own house. And she had just as much a hand in raising me as my own mother did. Now, Debbie, you're probably sitting there, if you're actually watching this, you're probably going to shake your head and say, where did I go wrong? And all I can say is, I turned out exactly the way you trained me. So I'm going to lay some of this at your and other people are going to say at the end of the story, people are going to say, Debbie, what did you do to that boy? But I'm going to say this: I turned out exactly the way you trained me, and that's how I'm going to leave it. So the beer bottle, leaving the beer bottle, that was not over at Debbie's house was not the first place that I'd done this. Where we had actually got started with this, and Chris was as much involved with this as I was. Back when we were in high school, we had this preacher, and he was a good guy, really nice guy, really young, really gullible, especially for a couple teenage boys that were up to no good. We liked to mess with him. He actually taught our Sunday morning class for a while, and he made the mistake a couple of times of leaving his sermon notes in the class before he would come in, leave them down there, go upstairs, and then come back. Well, we would then come down there and hijack his notes while he was away for a few minutes, and we'd leave our own commentary in his notes, like, okay, it's you need to speed things up a little bit, lunch is starting to get cold, hey, dad's starting to fall asleep, you need to throw in a punchline or something here, just certain things to try to catch him off guard. The second time he did it, we actually erased a couple of sentences and put in our own sentences, and maybe not our proudest moment, but it happened. So we messed with his. Well, he got to the point where he wouldn't leave his sermon notes down there, and so then this poor guy, he had an old car that didn't necessarily take a key to get it to start. Or at least you could turn the key. You could turn the ignition without the key in it and pop it out of gear. And so we did, and we would roll his vehicle out to the edge of the parking lot where it was right next to the road, and we'd turn the windshield wipers on, turn the radio volume up real loud. For those of you who have never experienced a old car, you could actually turn the volume all the way up on the car without actually turning the ignition key on to be able to tell where it was at. That's just the old style radios. So I know I've got some friends that this concept of the digital volume they've lived with, so they have no idea about the old analog systems. So I'll just let you know, at one point in time, all my young friends, there was a radios that you could actually turn the volume all the way up without actually turning power on to see where it was at. Trust me. And then, as a calling card, we would always find an empty beer can and set it right in the dash of this guy's car. And of course, he being the preacher, he would his car would sit right there in the church parking lot, right at the edge of the road, so people could see it as they drove by. We did this not once, but 2 or 3 times until he kind of wised up enough to start locking his car, and we could no longer get in. Now, in this, we actually did this 2 or 3 weeks before he did that. So now, poor guy, I think he, not exactly sure what happened. I'm almost certain that me and Chris ran this guy off. It really was unintentional. He was just so easy of a target, and he really was a good guy. And I do apologize for what we did to you, and I hope that we didn't do anything other than kind of toughen you up a little bit. But be that as it may, we did have a lot of fun doing it. And once again, as to round this story up, everything I did, I am going to blame Debbie for raising me to do all this stuff. And if it wasn't Debbie, it was my sister Margie, who used to pick and tease on me whenever I was a kid. Now, most people know that I'm the youngest of 6, so I got picked and teased on all the time by my older siblings. And Debbie was around all the time. So I'm still going to say Debbie played a part in this. And I'm going to blame Debbie for every last bit of rottenness in me. And I tell you what, we'll leave it at that. I'll see you next time.